We warned them, politely, like real civilized folks. We asked, begged, filed paperwork thicker than their planetary shields. But when they slaughtered our scientists and called it a breathing violation, we stopped being polite. And we sent Mercer. Just one man. Just one Deathworlder. And everything burned. They dropped him naked, except for a bathrobe, a titanium tooth, and a diplomatic envoy badge. Somewhere in the orbit of Aurelian Prime, half a dozen Accord command ships tracked his descent, their generals arguing about whether it was a bomb or a prank. The pod struck the manicured gardens of the Accord's capital like an insult hurled from orbit. Glass sculptures shattered. Holographic birds scattered in pixelated panic. The pod door hissed open, releasing a cloud of steam that smelled suspiciously like barbecue sauce. Out stepped Sergeant Ajax, Fangs, Mercer, ex-Special Forces, ex-prisoner, ex-everything that ever needed rules. He stretched, cracked his neck, and blinked at the lavender sky. Nice place, he muttered. Hope you've got insurance. 3 peacekeepers arrived, floating on grav pads like overpaid mall cops. One raised a pulse rifle. Identify yourself. I'm your problem, Ajax said. Diplomatic envoy from Deathworld 0. You killed our scientists. I'm here to return the favor. Politely. The peacekeepers exchanged glances. You're unarmed, one said. Yeah, Ajax grinned, stepping forward. Isn't that adorable? 5 seconds later, 2 of them were unconscious, and the third was screaming with his foot lodged in a decorative fountain. Ajax strolled into the Accord's plaza, admiring the spotless glass buildings and silk-smooth walkways. He whistled tunelessly, picked up a drop tourist guide, and chuckled at the local laws. No public aggression. No sharp objects. No spicy food? He tore the pamphlet in half. Y'all really thought this was a civilization? A shimmer in the air signaled the approach of an AI drone. Its face flickered with a calming blue avatar. Visitor, it said. Please submit to diplomatic processing. I did, Ajax replied, ramming his titanium tooth into the drone's emitter. Sparks flew. It collapsed in a heap. 3 minutes later, he stood in front of the city's Grand Archives, now repurposed as the Emergency Intelligence Center. He kicked in the door with a grin so wide it made a receptionist faint. I need a terminal, he said to the panicked clerk. And maybe some coffee. Black. Like your future. They didn't give him the terminal. He took it. Jacked his tooth into the port. Earth's encryption algorithms kicked in, punching through the Accord's firewalls like a caffeinated rhinoceros. He streamed a video across every public screen on the planet, the Titanus for massacre, unfiltered, raw, blood and all. No commentary. Just facts. No threats. Just silence. Within hours, the Accord's entire civilian population was demanding answers. Their leadership offered the usual excuses: rogue commander, accidental loss, cultural misunderstanding. Ajax responded by hijacking the Chancellor's midday address and replacing it with a new video titled, How to Win Friends and Humiliate Empires. It opened with him sitting in the Chancellor's chair, legs on the desk, flipping through their constitution. Article 8 says you can't invade a sovereign world. Guess you used it for toilet paper, huh? So here's Article 9, consequences. They sent soldiers. He sent them back confused, dehydrated, and terrified of chairs. One squad claimed Ajax had turned their weapons into soap. Another swore he argued a logic AI into existential crisis. None of them could prove anything. But all of them resigned. At a private meeting, the High Council screamed for war. One diplomat suggested bombing Earth. The others laughed, nervously. Then they remembered, Earth hadn't responded with fleets. It hadn't responded with threats. It had sent him. And he hadn't even started yet. Inside the Accord's Museum of Peaceful Evolution, Ajax stood atop a replica of the first interstellar treaty, now repurposed as a dartboard. He stared into a live feed drone and addressed the galaxy. You called us civilized. That was your first mistake. We were being polite. Do you know how much we held back? Do you know what we did to ourselves before we figured out peace? He gestured to a hologram behind him, the Earth timeline. World wars. Famines. Colonizations. Collapses. Rebirths. You built your utopia on comfort. We built ours on the bones of 10 billion mistakes. And we learned. You built glass houses and handed out stones. He paused. Grinned. So we sent just one Deathworlder. Just one. No ships. No nukes. No armies. Just a man with a titanium tooth and some serious trauma. He leaned in. And I'm not even the worst we've got. Every network lit up. Citizens panicked. Embassies evacuated. The Chancellor ordered full martial lockdown. Mercenaries were hired. And refused. One refused publicly, live weeping. We don't fight Deathworlders. The reptilian commander sobbed. We just don't. Back at the plaza, Ajax bought an ice cream from a terrified vendor using a stolen Imperial credit. He sat on a bench, watching the skyline, explosions in the distance, and murmured, Now they're listening. A shadow fell over him. A squad of elite enforcers. Real pros. Armored. Armed. Backed by drones. The leader stepped forward. Mercer, she said. You're under arrest. Stand down. Ajax nodded. Sure. Just give me a second. He stood slowly. Stretched. Then he pulled out a quantum harmonica. They froze. That's not. What is that? This? He said, blowing one note. The city's drone grid collapsed. The lights flickered. Someone screamed. I rewired the audio channels, Ajax explained. This little tune? It sings lullabies to your security systems. Nighty-night. He walked past them, patting one on the shoulder. Thanks for the company. You guys are great at standing still and panicking. Inside the Citadel now, the final layer between Ajax and the Accord's most sacred chamber, guards braced. Ministers begged for more time. The Chancellor cried. Ajax pressed a single button on a remote he hadn't even used yet. Across the planet, every screen went dark. Then his face. One line. No sound. Just text. You had your chance. Then silence. The people turned. The soldiers hesitated. The galaxy held its breath. And Earth didn't send anyone else. They didn't have to. The Accord issued an emergency bulletin, branding Sergeant Ajax Mercer as a Class C hostile entity, which sounded impressive until he hacked the broadcast and replaced it with footage of himself sitting on a golden toilet in the Chancellor's private suite. He grinned at the camera, swirling a cocktail. Civilized enough for you? He asked, raising the glass. Then the suite exploded in confetti. He'd rerouted the emergency defense systems to function as party cannons. He wasn't hiding. He didn't need to. They knew where he was. They just couldn't get near him. 10 elite squads tried. Ajax turned their tactics into open-source memes, broadcasting play-by-play breakdowns mid-combat. See here? That's where Lieutenant B-Face thought a tactical roll would save him from gravity and my boot. Common mistake. 0 stars. In one footage, he repurposed a peacekeeper's riot shield into a hot dog stand. In another, he fed their reconnaissance drones to wild alley cats, tagged them as retraining programs, and let them loose in the Parliament gardens. And he still hadn't hurt anyone. That's what drove them mad. Every system in place, diplomatic channels, security drones, public relations, automated defense, crumbled under the relentless pressure of one human operating at 30% effort and full sarcasm. The Chancellor summoned the Emergency Council, a sacred ritual reserved for planetary collapse, and found that the war room was already compromised. Ajax was inside, lounging on a holographic display, eating dried fruit from a stolen ambassador's snack tray. Before you scream, he said, mouth full. I sanitized the chair. You're welcome. Guards surged. He activated a flash burst, blinding only the retinal implants of anyone carrying a sidearm. The rest simply collapsed in confusion, slipping on the diplomatic rug Ajax had so thoughtfully covered in industrial lubricant. One minister screamed that he was violating galactic decorum. He nodded solemnly. With style. The Krenzel War delegation arrived mid-chaos, towering reptilian warriors who once turned their own oceans to acid in a civil dispute. Their champion stepped forward, claws gleaming. The chamber froze. Ajax stood, stretched, and held up a pool noodle he'd stolen from the aquatic therapy sector. The Krenzel gasped. The champion dropped to one knee. I know this man, he growled. He bested me on Thurok's moon with that weapon. He is not to be crossed. The Chancellor paled. That was you? 10 years ago, Ajax said. Good noodle. Balanced. I still have the scar. He lifted his robe slightly, revealing an old, circular bruise. The Krenzel clapped in reverence. That moment, streamed live to every Accord world, cracked their public perception in two. Their feared leaders bowed. Their pristine systems failed. Their enemy, a single unarmed Deathworlder in a bathrobe, walked through the heart of their civilization with a snack and a smile. Why are you doing this? The Chancellor asked him directly, a rare flash of sincerity behind the fatigue. Ajax's smile faded. You killed 312 of our people. Civilians. Scientists. Not warriors. We tried to talk. We sent envies. You sent silence. So now we're showing you what silence buys. But you haven't declared war. Earth doesn't declare war. We just stop pretending not to be what we are. He walked past the Chancellor and dropped a small device on the table. A Terran projector. It lit up with images from Earth's darkest ages: wars, bombings, genocides, disasters. Then images of humans helping each other, rebuilding cities, taming the wild, forging peace through pain. A timeline of horror refined into resilience. You think we're savage because we clawed our way up from chaos. We think you're fragile because you've never had to. He turned toward the council, arms out. This isn't destruction. This is restraint. That word echoed. Restraint. Because if Ajax wanted to, he could have leveled half the city already. But he hadn't. He disabled, embarrassed, exposed. That was enough. For now. But tension boiled under every word. The idea of escalation loomed, thick as a storm cloud. What if Earth wasn't bluffing? What if this truly was just one? Ajax made sure they felt it. He released the council feed to the public. Let every Accord citizen witness their leaders kneel and stammer. Let them question their entire hierarchy. Some protested. Others fled. A few applauded. Then, as the drone cameras closed in, Ajax made his last move of the day. He uploaded the Terran Black file to the Accord's mainframe, a document once deemed psychologically corrosive. It detailed Earth's war doctrines, historical revenge tactics, and a projected simulation of what humanity would do if truly provoked. The simulation ended with 10 billion simulated deaths and a single Terran flag planted on a cratered throne. Then the screens went dark. He stood on the edge of the Citadel's balcony, robe billowing. Beneath him, millions watched. Some in awe. Others in dread. A reporter called out. What do you want? Ajax smiled. Want? Oh, sweetheart. I'm not here to want. I'm here to remind. He dropped a flare from his hand, and a projection flared across the sky, the Earth emblem, superimposed with a single line of Terran standard. Civilized is a choice, not a limitation. Then he disappeared into the underbelly of the capital, leaving behind a capital on the edge, an empire unraveling at the seams, and a galaxy no longer laughing at the soft-spoken Deathworlders from the blue planet. He hadn't fired a single shot. Yet everyone understood. Next time, he might not come alone. The Accord's capital had gone quiet. Not peaceful, silent in the way a jungle gets before a predator strikes. Aurelian Prime, once obsessed with serenity, now buzzed with anxiety. Every building had doubled its security protocols. Automated drones shadowed every public square. Emergency council meetings dragged into 36-hour sessions. Yet none of it stopped the whisper passing from species to species, corridor to corridor. They sent just one. Ajax Mercer had not resurfaced since his last broadcast. There were no sightings, no footprints. He wasn't hiding. He was watching. The city's nervous system twitched with every flicker of power. Every blackout sparked military sweeps. Every misfiring vending machine prompted bomb squads. They weren't looking for a man anymore. They were looking for the shadow of the consequence. The Chancellor's hands trembled as he clutched a goblet of imported nectar, eyes hollow from sleepless nights. "He's destabilizing everything," he whispered to his advisors. "Markets, defense morale, public trust. And we still haven't found him." A junior minister dared to speak. "Perhaps we should contact Earth. Request clarification." The Chancellor's laugh cracked like glass. "Clarification? They clarified when they dropped a man in a robe and watched us implode. If we reach out now, they'll know we're weak. We'll be prey." Someone else chimed in. "He hasn't killed anyone." The room went still. A pause thick with unspoken truth. No casualties. No overt violence. But hundreds of resignations, dozens of psychological breakdowns, and half the galactic broadcast agencies reporting record-high insomnia. Then came the flicker. Every screen in the Citadel turned black. Then white. Then a single image: Ajax, sipping something fizzy, lounging with his feet on a console. Behind him, 3 guards tied up with streamers. A message scrolled beneath in looping text. "You haven't even seen round 2. Panic surged. Orders were screamed. Entire command networks scrambled. But by the time they got to the room he broadcasted from, it was empty. A fruit bowl sat where he'd been. The bananas were labeled confiscated war assets. Outside, the people were changing. They'd seen the footage. The strength, the madness, the humor. More importantly, they saw their leaders tremble. Accord citizens began asking dangerous questions. What else had they been lied to about? Why did one human shake an empire? And why wasn't anyone stopping him? Tension cracked when the Minister of Infrastructure defected on live broadcast, claiming he'd rather surrender to Mercer than serve a council that couldn't outweed a shirtless man with a harmonica. 2 hours later, the Accord's own central AI core crashed under a recursive loop Ajax had left behind, one that forced it to review every protocol involving diplomacy and snacks. The city's sky turned red. An orbital beacon flared. The Accord's final defense protocol was engaged, Titan Hammer. It was the declaration of total planetary lockdown, used only when existential annihilation was imminent. To the citizens, this meant one thing. They thought Mercer was winning. To the Accord, it was confirmation. He already had. In a sealed vault 5 levels below the Council, the Emergency Combat AI, one of their last true war programs, came online. A weapon never used, never needed until now. Ajax had forced them to awaken the sleeping war beast they'd mothballed centuries ago. They poured every digital trace, movement signal, and atmospheric disturbance into the AI's brain. It spoke one phrase: "Target acquired." For the first time since his arrival, the Accord was sure. They knew exactly where he was. They mobilized everything. 92 shock teams. Orbital dropships. Interdimensional dampeners. Anti-human toxin drones. The command was simple. Contain. Eliminate. Record the body for proof. The strike was flawless. Silent. Synchronized. Not a single citizen noticed the massive operation collapsing on the city's old terraforming core, a forgotten relic beneath the surface where Mercer had allegedly made camp. They stormed in. Layer by layer. Perfect formation. Adrenaline spiked. Every soldier imagined glory. And that's when they saw it. A note. Taped to a vintage coffee machine, sitting alone in the dusty atrium. It read, "You really thought I'd hide in a basement? That's adorable. Also, your coffee sucks." Behind them, a low hum began to rise. They turned. Every gun, every drone, every automated bot they'd deployed in the entire city, activated. Not against Mercer. Against them. A failsafe he'd hijacked days ago. embedded inside their own systems. They weren't soldiers anymore. They were targets. Protocol Ajax, the bots intoned. Engaged. Across the city, footage played of their elite forces being tripped, trapped, and wrapped in decontamination foam. Not lethal. Not violent. But globally humiliating. The Chancellor collapsed into his chair, muttering the only word he could manage. Why? A voice answered. Not a transmission. Ajax. Standing at the council's threshold. You needed to see it for yourself, he said. You rule by appearance. We rule by adaptation. You've never faced extinction. We've danced with it. The guards didn't move. They couldn't. Not with him standing there, calm as a priest at a funeral he caused. I didn't kill anyone, Ajax continued. Not because I couldn't, but because Earth gave me rules. We offered you peace. You responded with slaughter. Now look around. You're broken. And I haven't even raised my voice yet. One council member stood, trembling. You're a monster. He smiled. No. I'm your mirror. He tossed a disc onto the floor. It played the entire Titanus IV massacre again, intercut with diplomatic logs Earth had sent, ignored, unopened, laughed at. Then a final image, a list of every Accord commander who greenlit the operation. Every one of them now missing. Quietly extracted. Confessions already en route to galactic media outlets. The Chancellor stared, lips trembling. What do you want? Ajax shrugged. You'll tell your people the truth. You'll sign Earth into the Accord as a sovereign power with non-engagement status. And you'll never, ever speak about Deathworlders again without trembling a little. And if we don't? He turned, already walking away. Then Earth stops being civilized. No one stopped him. They couldn't. The Accord's emergency quorum was held behind triple reinforced doors, surrounded by antimatter suppression fields and 4 layers of silence protocols. No media. No civilians. Just the last remnants of a leadership unraveling in real time. No one spoke at first. Every word had weight now. Every movement could trigger panic in the streets. Their capital was functioning, technically, but their illusion of control had shattered. One delegate finally broke the silence. We lost the planet without a single shot fired. Another whispered. He turned our peacekeeping doctrines into a punchline. The Chancellor didn't look up from his hands. The galaxy saw it. All of it. One man. No army. No weapons. And we folded. The Minister of Security slammed his fist against the table. We can still retaliate. Earth has vulnerabilities. Their colonies. No, the Chancellor said, quiet but firm. We attack now, we prove him right. We become the monsters we accuse them of being. A heavy breath passed through the chamber like a gust of shame. Then the floor beneath them pulsed, a coded signal. One last feed incoming. They didn't authorize it. The lights dimmed. Holograms ignited. And there he was, once again, larger than life, lounging in the Chancellor's private observation lounge, sipping from a bottle labeled Accord Reserve 2154. Ajax Mercer, robe now replaced with a simple Earth emblem shirt, boots up, eyes glinting with that irritating mix of menace and mirth. Relax, he said. I locked the room from the outside. No assassins this time. Just conversation. And a gift. He held up a small device, an Accord data cube. Inside this little beauty, he continued, is a complete record of Earth's final transmission to your council before Titanus IV. Not the one you press filtered. The real one. Full audio. Emotional telemetry. Biological scans. The part where your command laughed when we begged for peace. One of the delegates stood abruptly. You're bluffing. Ajax smiled. Try me. Plug it in. Or better yet, don't. Just keep pretending your dignity is still intact. He leaned forward now, tone hardening. You killed civilians. Not soldiers. Not diplomats. Botanists. Parents. Children. Then you called it protocol. You denied it. Then you ignored it. Then you panicked when someone knocked on your door without permission. His smile dropped entirely. So I knocked louder. One by one, Accord delegates looked away. Some in shame. Some in fear. All in recognition. Whatever he was, Ajax Mercer wasn't just a warning. He was a verdict. He stood, walked to the edge of the lounge, camera still rolling. You don't get to undo what happened. But you do get to decide what happens next. A flick of his wrist, and the galactic broadcast ignited again. Public, unrestricted, beamed across every Accord-controlled system. All of it, this final address. He faced the feed directly. To the citizens of the Accord, he began, voice steady. I'm not your enemy. Your leaders called us savages. They showed you images of our past, our wars, our mistakes. But they didn't show you what we learned from them. They didn't show you who we've become. He paced slowly now, each step deliberate. We tamed a planet that tried to kill us every day. We built peace not because we were born into it, but because we earned it. We forged it in fire, in blood, in the screams of our own failures. We did not inherit peace. We fought for it. He stopped. And when we offered it to you, you thought it meant we were weak. He lifted the data cube one final time. This is proof of what they buried. Proof of what they allowed. Proof that your enemies are not on Earth. He crushed the cube between his fingers. But I'm not here to rule you. I'm not here to destroy you. I'm here to remind you. The feed cut abruptly. Nothing but the Earth emblem left glowing on every screen. A symbol the galaxy now knew by heart. In the chamber, silence stretched. Then a single voice spoke. The Chancellor. Quiet. Resigned. Draft the Accord? Earth joins as a sovereign entity. No sanctions. No surveillance. No engagement unless invited. The Security Minister scowled. You're giving them too much. I'm giving us a future, the Chancellor replied. Later that day, Ajax walked through the Accord's central plaza. No security detail, no fanfare. Just a man watching an empire exhale. Citizens stared. Not in fear, but in awe. Children pointed. A few cheered. Many just watched, unsure what to feel anymore. At the base of the diplomatic tower, an artisan unveiled a new statue. Not bronze. Not gold. Something better. It was made of decommissioned drones, twisted and melted into the form of a man mid-stride, grinning, holding out a data chip like an offering, or a warning. Beneath it a plaque read, Civilized is a choice. Ajax didn't speak. He didn't need to. He just smiled, turned, and walked toward the landing bay. A young Accord journalist caught up to him, breathless. Mr. Mercer, where are you going now? He looked at her, eyes tired but satisfied. Home. Hopefully for good. Are you done? He paused. No one's ever done. But maybe now, we don't need to send two. As he stepped aboard the shuttle, Earth's colors trailing in digital vapor behind him, the galaxy watched. Remembered. Recalibrated. They would never see Deathworlders the same way again. Not as monsters. Not as primitives. But as the one thing even the most advanced civilizations feared to provoke. Because when Earth gets serious, it only needs to send one. The silence that followed Ajax Mercer's departure was not peace. It was the stunned, unsettled quiet of a civilization realizing it had been standing on a cliff, blindfolded, laughing, and only now glimpsed the abyss. Earth had sent one man. Not an army. Not a fleet. Just one. He left behind no rubble, no fires, no bodies. Only questions. And a signature on a treaty that would change the galaxy forever. The Accord ratified Earth's sovereignty within 48 hours. Unanimous. No amendments. No resistance. A first in their 5,000-year bureaucratic history. It wasn't diplomacy. It was self-preservation dressed in ceremonial robes. They spun it as a new age of partnership, of interstellar humility and inclusion. But everyone knew what it really was. Surrender. Publicly, Earth accepted with grace. Calm words. Open hands. Talk of collaboration and shared futures. But the subtext burned through every syllable. We never asked for this. You forced it. And we answered. Galactic media praised the peaceful resolution. No casualties. No wars. A masterclass in restraint. Behind closed doors, military strategists rewrote doctrines. Economists recalibrated models. Psychologists drafted new threat assessments. The phrase, Mercer Protocol, entered security briefings across 5 sectors. In classrooms, children were taught a new version of history. Not because Earth demanded it, but because fear had become the most persuasive teacher. Fear of what else might be possible if Earth decided the leash wasn't worth wearing anymore. Some refused to believe it. They called the footage fake. Labeled Mercer a propaganda tool, an exaggeration, a myth. But then those voices vanished. Quietly. Without fanfare. The kind of disappearance that didn't involve violence, just undeniable proof. A Krenzel warlord released a personal statement, praising Mercer's honor and ingenuity. To defeat without killing is to master both war and self. It read. We are reconsidering all diplomatic policies with Earth. And perhaps pool noodles. Earth remained silent. That was the most terrifying part. For the first time, the galaxy saw what it meant for a death world to be patient. Not because it lacked the means to lash out, but because it chose not to. Aurelian Prime became the unofficial shrine to the lesson. The statue remained untouched. Citizens walked by it in reverence. Not for the man. For the idea. That a single will, unbroken by comfort, trained by chaos, and sharpened through history, could fracture the illusion of superiority built over millennia. The High Chancellor's health declined. His speeches grew shorter, quieter, less certain. He never publicly acknowledged the humiliation, but his eyes did. Every time he looked into a camera, there was a flicker, a man who had faced something beyond his understanding and survived only because that thing had let him. 6 months later, an anonymous leak from inside Earth's intelligence assembly surfaced across encrypted networks. It claimed Mercer had never been the first choice. That several candidates had been considered, diplomats, tacticians, negotiators. They chose Ajax Mercer because they didn't want a war. They wanted the idea of one. The leak concluded with one line. You don't send your sharpest weapon. You send your loudest warning. Not everyone was convinced. In the outer sectors, a coalition of fringe worlds formed a whisper campaign, claiming Earth had orchestrated the entire conflict to rise in power. They spoke of manipulation. False flags. Deception masked as civility. One of them tried to test the theory. A remote mining colony, unofficially backed by the Sons of Purity, broadcasted a challenge. Come again, their transmission read. If you think one Deathworlder can bend the stars. They received no answer. 3 days later, their colony was empty. No bodies. No explosions. Just everything functioning perfectly. Power. Oxygen. Gravity. Everything except the people. A single message was found on every screen. Still just one. After that, no more challenges came. Earth did not issue threats. It didn't need to. The memory of one man walking unarmed through the heart of a superpower and rewriting its fate was enough. Mercer himself vanished. Earth refused to comment. Some said he retired. Others said he was kept in cryostasis, on standby, like a myth you never want to confirm, just fear. Rumors swirled he had been seen teaching survival tactics to orphans in the irradiated tundra of post-Siberia. Others believed he was somewhere off-world, doing what he always did, waiting for the next line to be crossed. But everyone agreed on one thing. You don't poke Earth. Not anymore. Galactic culture changed in subtle ways. Training exercises for diplomats now included Mercer scenario simulations. Architecture in capital cities began incorporating more curved angles. Less threatening to Deathworld aesthetics. One memo explained. Psychological tolerance tests were redesigned to withstand higher stress environments. One species added sarcasm detection to their ambassadorial AI, citing it as a top survival priority. What began as a catastrophe became a curriculum. And Earth? It kept quiet. It sent no armies. Built no fleets. Just kept exploring, building, surviving, like it always had. But now, when Terran ships arrived at border checkpoints, the silence came first. Then the green light. One checkpoint commander summed it up best, whispering into his terminal as the Terran cruiser passed unchallenged. They sent just one. The log ended there. No need for further commentary. The galaxy had learned something new. Not about Earth. About fear. Not the explosive kind. Not the kind that shatters glass and leaves rubble. The kind that builds statues. Writes treaties. And echoes forever in the back of your mind. Because when you realize civilization is a choice, you remember who had to fight hardest to make it one.